Greetings, Earthlings. This video is going to be more directed at newer players, so if you're new to the game, welcome. If you're not, I don't know, stick around anyway, you might learn something. Today is going to be a bit of a longer video, but it's going to be the first video in a series of videos, so it's going to be part 1, and I'm going to be going in depth on keywords. Now to start off, what are keywords? Well, a keyword ability is a word or a combination of words that represents a piece of rules text describing an ability present on a card. It's the replacement of an exact line of text that a lot of older cards had. Many keywords are summarized in reminder text, especially in core sets. They can be referenced mechanically. An effect could be based on the presence of keyword abilities or grant those abilities to a card. Keyword abilities describe properties that a card has indefinitely, so they are somewhat different from keyword actions, which players take at discrete points in the gameplay. Both are distinct from ability words, which only label certain kinds of abilities for flavor, rather than directly representing the rules text, and which cannot be referenced by game mechanics. Collectively, game actions and abilities, including keywords, are described as mechanics. Now, I usually try to keep my videos pretty short and prompt, but I want to cover every keyword ability and action cohesively as it currently stands in the game. At the time of this video's release, we were introduced to Murders at Karlov Manor that includes some new keywords that I'll get to throughout this video. I'd also like to preface this by saying that I'm only stating when abilities were introduced as keywords. A lot of them were previous mechanics that didn't have official keywords, but I'm not addressing those as they are mostly eroded and not important. Now, for this video, for each video, I'm probably going to cover about 20 keyword abilities, and there's about 170 of them. So strap in, and eventually the series will be done, and I'll make a playlist to it, and you can watch them all in series if you really feel like. I personally like having videos playing in the background while I'm just doing things, so like if you want me as just background noise, I will take that. Without further ado, to start we've got Death Touch. Introduced in Future Sight, Death Touch is a static ability that causes any amount of damage by the source to a creature to be lethal damage. Whether it be 1 damage or 100, it's lethal. Secondly, we have Defender. Introduced in Betrayers of Kamigawa as a keyword, Defender is a static ability that renders a creature unable to attack, mainly assigned to the wall creature type. Next, we've got Double Strike. Introduced in Legions, Double Strike is an evergreen keyword ability that allows a creature to deal combat damage twice per combat phase, once during the first combat damage step, along with any creatures that have first strike, and again during the second combat damage step, along with creatures that have neither keyword. So pretty much how that works is it deals damage before anything else can deal damage, and then everything deals their damage simultaneously. Next, we have Enchant. Introduced in 9th edition, Enchant is a keyword ability that restricts what an aura can target and be attached to. Aura is an enchantment type, specifically. Up until 9th edition of the core game, auras were known as local enchantments. They said enchant object, where object is what it could enchant instead of enchantment. Next we got Equip. Introduced in Mirrodin, Equip is a keyword ability found on artifacts with the subtype Equipment. By paying the equip cost, you can attach the artifact to a creature you control, which is referred to in the text as the equipped creature. Next we've got First Strike. Introduced all the way in Alpha, First Strike is an evergreen keyword ability that changes the rules for combat by adding an additional combat damage step. A creature with First Strike deals combat damage before creatures without First Strike, similar to Double Strike. Next we got Flash. Introduced in Time Spiral, Flash is a keyword ability which allows the card it is printed on to be cast at any time you can cast an instant, which is any time you're given priority during a game. Next we got Flying. The most basic one, introduced back in Alpha, Flying is an evergreen evasion ability that makes creatures without flying or reach unable to block creatures with flying. It was actually the first mechanic that Richard Garfield designed for the game, so there's some trivia for you. Next we got Haste. Introduced as a keyword in 6th edition, Haste is a keyword ability that allows a creature to circumvent summoning sickness. Creatures with Haste can attack or use activated abilities with the tap or untap symbol in the activation cost, even if they have not been continuously controlled by a player since the end step of that player's most recent turn. Next, we got Hexproof. Introduced actually as a keyword in the game Duels of the Planeswalkers 2012, but M12 in paper form, Hexproof is an evergreen keyword ability that prevents a permanent or player from being the target of spells or abilities played by opponents. Simple. Up next, we've got Indestructible. Introduced as a keyword in Darksteel, Indestructible is an evergreen keyword ability, and indestructible permanents can't be destroyed by rules or effects. That includes lethal damage caused by Death Touch. Next, we've got Intimidate. Introduced in Zendikar, Intimidate is a deprecated keyword ability. A creature with Intimidate can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color with it. Simple. Next, we got Landwalk. Also introduced in Alpha, Landwalk is a former evergreen keyword ability on creatures that makes the creature unblockable if the defending player controls at least one land with a certain characteristic. The keyword has always appeared in conjunction with a subtype or supertype to denote the appropriate characteristic, and in most cases did not actually appear as Landwalk, but instead Island Walk, Desert Walk, Snow Forest Walk, and so on. Next up, we've got Lifelink. Introduced as a keyword in Future Sight, Lifelink makes it so damage dealt by a source with Lifelink causes that source's controller to gain that much life, whether you're dealing combat damage to a creature or player. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you've got a creature with a tap effect, that counts too. It doesn't always have to be combat damage. Next up, we got Protection. Introduced back in Alpha as well. Protection From is an evergreen keyword ability that grants several different effects to the permanent or player it is affecting. To put it simply, Protection follows the rules of Debt. The affected permanent or player cannot be damaged, equipped, enchanted, or fortified, blocked, or targeted by whatever it is protected against. Board wipes ignore protection. Next up, we've got Reach. Introduced as a keyword in Future Sight, Reach is an evergreen keyword ability that replaces the "this creature can block as though it had flying" ability seen on creatures such as Giant Spider. So in short, creatures with Reach can block creatures with flying. Next up, we've got Shroud. Also introduced in Future Sight, Shroud is a keyword ability that prevents a permanent or player from being the target of spells or abilities by anything. Unlike Hexproof, Shroud is symmetrical, so not even the active player can target the shrouded permanent. Up next, we've got Trample. Back in Alpha, again, Trample is a keyword ability that changes the rules for assigning damage in the combat damage step. An attacker with Trample deals excess damage to the defending player, planeswalker, or battle even if it's blocked. Now, important note, a creature with Death Touch and Trample would deal any damage in excess of 1 to the player if it's blocked. And even though protection creatures take no damage, the rest of the damage still tramples over. And if you're still hitting a creature with Indestructible, it's still any damage in excess of 1, because with a creature with Death Touch, 1 damage is lethal. Even though it's not killing an indestructible creature, it doesn't need to do any more damage than that. Next up, we have Vigilance. Introduced as a keyword in Champions of Kamigawa, put simply, Vigilance is a keyword ability on creatures that allows the creature to attack without tapping. Simple. And then, finally, for this part 1, we've got Ward. One of the newer keywords on this list is introduced in Strixhaven. Whenever a permanent with Ward becomes a target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, it is countered unless that player pays an additional cost. It's basically taxed hexproof. So, there's the first 20 keyword abilities in this long list that I'm going to be going through over the course of the next few videos. If you'd like to check them out and follow along with me, feel free to like and subscribe. I will link my source to these keyword abilities rules in the description as we go along, so then you can check them out for yourself. But without further ado, I bid thee farewell.